Hey, it's Phil Meyer. Let's talk about Black Mage on controller. Black Mage is a challenging job to both learn and master, but when everything clicks, you'll feel like an unstoppable powerhouse melting enemies who dare stand in your path. As with all of my job layouts, I prioritize putting instant use actions on the controller face buttons. That way I can stay mobile with the left analog stick while weaving in spells. Black Mage follows that same philosophy, though thanks to Swiftcast and Triplecast, any of Black Mage's spells can be made instant, which makes placement more contextual. The layout I use involves 2 cross hotbar sets, so 4 hotbars total. One set is focused on single target attacks, and the other on area attacks. I swap between them by tapping the right shoulder button, a behavior you can configure under character configuration settings. Before we get into the layout itself, let's talk about how Black Mage rotates between its fire and ice spells. Under full Umbral Ice, Blizzard spells become stronger and regenerate MP rapidly. At the same time, fire spells become weaker, but they're cast faster and cost no mana. The reverse is true with Astral Fire. Fire spells get a huge damage boost, while Blizzard spells weaken. Again, weakened spells are cast faster and cost no MP. A wise Black Mage quickly recharges with Ice and then flips into Fire to lay on the pressure. Swiftcast and Triplecast aren't just for mobility, they're also tools to optimize your damage. Instead of switching between Ice and Fire through Spellcast, you can use Transpose to flip between elements instantly, and then Swiftcast or Triplecast can skip the leading cast times altogether. Understanding this interaction is key to getting the most from the layout. I began this setup by adapting my general caster template, so all roll actions stay in familiar spots for muscle memory. Swiftcast and Triplecast go on the same face button in the double cross hotbar, just on opposite triggers. That way, either one can be quickly reached while moving, letting me convert any spell into an instant cast when needed. On the base cross hotbar, the left trigger's face buttons hold key instant abilities like Thunder, Transpose, and Umbral Soul, all frequently used so they need quick access. Ethereal Manipulation, the job's gap closer, sits on the right face button. I place it here for 2 reasons. First, it's consistent with other gap closers in my layouts, and the second requires a little more explanation. Although Ethereal Manipulation requires a friendly target, and the D-pad is typically used for targeting party members, I found that keeping it on a face button allows me to reposition quickly. If I'm out of range after targeting a party member, I can manually run in and press it at the moment I'm close enough without having to shuffle fingers around. Assist targeting, focus targeting, and other targeting macros also reduce the need for D-pad input altogether. I've recently moved my assist targeting macro to the right analog stick button for even faster use across all jobs. This frees up a slot in my expanded cross hotbar, so I've been experimenting with other targeting macros. In a light party, the healer by default is party member 3. Dashing to them is a reasonable bet when things get chaotic. With gap closers, every fraction of a second helps. All of Black Mage's ice spells are mapped to this trigger's D-pad. My ice phase philosophy is simple: get in, get out. Recharge mana, then immediately pivot back to fire. I keep a second Triplecast copy on this side to help optimize damage output. More on that later. Notably, the positions for single target and AoE ice spells are consistent. Blizzard 2 and Blizzard 3 share a slot since they both shortcut to Umbral Ice 3. Blizzard 4 and Freeze go in the same slot since they grant Umbral Hearts. The right trigger side of the base hotbar is where I spend most of my time. All fire spells are on the face buttons, letting me stay mobile and reactive with Swiftcast or Triplecast when needed. Support actions fill in the remaining slots here. Ley Lines doesn't require movement. In fact, it expects the opposite, so I put it on the D-pad. Between the lines, unlike Ethereal Manipulation, doesn't need a target, so it's also great for a D-pad slot. Mana Font, which I usually use mid-fire phase, stays on this side too. While it might benefit from a face button in some edge cases, like casting fire spells while moving, it has a long cooldown, so other actions take priority. A second Swiftcast copy here helps kick off an Astral Fire phase with Fire 2 or Fire 3, both of which have longer cast times. It also works well to jump into Ice when needed. So that's the base hotbar, tuned for movement and responsiveness. Let's look at the double cross hotbar. Xenoglossy and Foul, powered by polyglot charges, go on the right trigger face buttons. Amplifier, which grants a polyglot, joins them so I can quickly build and burn charges from one cluster. Flare Star also sits here. It has a cast time, so I like to keep it next to Swiftcast for mobility synergy. On the other side, I place defensive actions, Addle and Mana Ward. I prefer to keep these on face buttons so they're usable while moving, especially in tight situations. The final job spell is Scathe. It's instant and meant for mobility, which is why it gets a face button. That said, its damage is so low that it's almost never used at higher levels. I keep it on the bar mostly for level sync situations. Surecast, Sleep, and Lucid Dreaming fill out the rest. These are consistent across my job layouts. Notably, Lucid Dreaming isn't very useful for Black Mage. It only helps if you're low on mana, have no elemental affinity, and nothing to attack, in which case you can't rely on Blizzard or Umbral Soul. It's rare but not impossible. That's the core layout, but if you're still leveling, you might want to make some adjustments along the way. For example, Foul is learned at level 70, but Xenoglossy doesn't unlock until level 80. During those 10 levels, I recommend duplicating Foul on your bar. Similar logic will apply to other spells as well. Now that we've covered the layout, let's walk through some spell rotations to see how it all comes together. Here's the AoE rotation, leaving out Thunder, Paradox, and other spells for now, just for simplicity. Okay, now let's add in Transpose, Swiftcast, and Triplecast to the AoE attacks to demonstrate those transitions. And finally, let me show one last example, putting together Black Mage's full toolkit. My aim is to demonstrate the layout's flow, not to push for peak DPS. Hopefully you see how this layout supports efficient movement between fire and ice phases while reducing the need to constantly swap hotbars. It still takes practice to master, especially with fight mechanics in play, but I believe it gives a solid foundation. Thanks for watching, and I hope this guide helps you feel more confident playing Black Mage on controller. If you found it helpful, consider giving it a like or sharing it with a fellow mage in training. I'd really appreciate it. For my next video, I'll be covering Astrologian, so stay tuned for that layout breakdown. See you in the next one.